Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve and today we're taking a look at my team selection for Game Week 6 and why I've already taken a hit to bring Julian Alvarez up into my team up front. So I'll quickly read through my Game Week 5 team, which scored 53 points. Earned me a huge green arrow, taking me from just outside the 500,000 rank up to 271k heading into Game Week 6. And we got there with returns from Botman, who was one of my transfers in last week alongside Sun in a move where I used 2 free transfers to get that 9 million spot back into my squad. Return from Salah with 2 assists. It was almost 3 assists, but Elliot's goal was actually ruled down to a own goal as the initial shot was off target. But he has been constantly ticking along all season for me. Saka, who also picked up an assist and came away with 6 points. Haaland as captain. And João Pedro, who came off the bench at Brighton to score a goal and nab 2 bonus points with only 26 minutes of game time. So before we get into the reasoning behind why I've decided to take the hit for Alvarez, if you're not already a subscriber to this channel, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. And if you do enjoy the following content, hit that like button. It also helps out with the algorithm and being found on YouTube. So, I should probably read out the rest of the team. We've brought Alvarez in for João Pedro. I didn't have the money to do that. I only had 0.4 million in the bank. So I did a video earlier in the week about why Ben Chilwell has to go and how he was definitely going to be my transfer out this week. That move has been confirmed. I have brought in Dan Burn from Newcastle to double up on the Newcastle defence for their run of fixtures. And the reason I've gone with Dan Burn is I needed the funds in order to be able to get João Pedro all the way up to Alvarez, but I was actually planning on doing that next week in Game Week 7 and not for a hit, as I discussed in the video earlier this week. Now, having done the full video last week was a lot longer than I actually initially anticipated. I did not at all expect that to go out to 45 minutes, and so we'll try and keep this one very brief, but the long and the short of it is my review criteria for holding on to João Pedro in my squad for the first 5 game weeks was triggered last week when he was benched for the 3rd time in 5 game weeks. I had stated in the pre-season that I was happy to take 2 benchings on the chin for João Pedro as he worked his way into the squad. And since he got 3 benchings, I actually went through and re-reviewed where he is at. Now, I arrived at the decision that I was still happy to hold on to João Pedro and happy to play him off the bench for the next 2 game weeks, and that hasn't actually changed at all. I still think João Pedro is worth holding on to for the next couple of game weeks. However, there were some additional things that have come into play, and it's mostly around money in my squad. I'm running with Haaland, Salah, Son and Saka, which is £44.1 million of investment, which actually makes money extremely tight in my squad. João Pedro had already fallen in value from 5.5 to 5.4 million. He was trending downwards at the start or the end of last game week and came on and scored the goal, got 7 points, but has still been trending down across the game week, going from a negative 30 to a negative 60 or 69 on FPL statistics. If he gets to a negative 100, it is very likely that he is going to drop. And when I went through and re-reviewed I go through all my videos and critique myself to try and get better at producing videos for you guys to listen to. And when I re-listened to myself, I actually thought there was a lot of good reasons to actually reconsider taking the hit for Alvarez. And then when the Champions League game for Man City happened yesterday or this morning, it pushed me over the edge into making the decision. So the decision was actually really close. So I will go through all the reasoning, a lot of the reasons that I put forward as to why I wanted to get Alvarez. But the reason that I've pulled it forward to this game week and spending the -4 points on him was in that Champions League fixture, he is actually the second most attacking threat in the City squad. So Julian Alvarez scored 2 goals from 8 shots in the game, with 5 of those shots being on target against Crvena Zvezda, if that's how it's pronounced. And additionally, in the Champions League match, Bernardo Silva went off before half-time with an injury, which has immediately ruled him out for the next game. Now, the injury list at Man City is growing. So that's Bernardo Silva, Grealish, Kovacic and De Bruyne, who are all midfielders who are currently out. And that actually saw Mateus Nunes down at 5.0 million in FPL, starting in the CDM position in that Champions League fixture alongside Rodri. So the Man City team is actually relatively depleted. Alvarez looks like he has taken on the De Bruyne role, with him being out until about mid-December. He's 23 years old, and so he's going to have more than enough energy and youth in his legs to be able to play both midweek fixtures and the Premier League each week. And it kind of looks like he's going to need to do so with all the injuries that City are carrying. Now, with Pedro trending down in value, and I actually have no idea whether or not he is going to start this weekend, there is the potential that he drops to 5.3 million this week, or it happens across the weekend as the games are going on and the deadline has rolled over. And Alvarez was about to go up in value from 6.8 million to 6.9 million today, about 3 hours ago, in which he did in fact rise in price. And 6.9 million was my cutoff point, and if he rose again to 7.0 million, I would not actually be able to get him into the squad next week. And considering he's just scored 2 goals in the Champions League fixture, I can actually see him hitting the 7 million price point by the game week 6 deadline, meaning I may not even be able to buy Alvarez even if I did go early next week. Now, if I did delay this move until next week and Alvarez doesn't go up to 7 million and stays at the 6.9 million price point, he's almost certainly going to go up to 7 million very early next week, and so I would have had to have jumped on Alvarez very early in the week next week, before all the midweek fixtures were to be played. Now, the majority of all midweek fixtures have been played, and pretty much all of my team who did have midweek fixtures have survived. The only 2 players that I do have that have yet to play their midweek fixture is Salah and Estupinan. So I have gone a little bit early. It's currently 3 days before deadline at the time of recording and at the time at which I made the move for Alvarez. So I could get caught off guard by either an Estupinan or Salah injury in their games, I think Friday New Zealand time, Thursday afternoon, evening over in the Eurozone. But that's a lot less risky than having to go early on Alvarez next week with everyone not yet to have played their midweek fixtures. So I've just come off a great week. where many have struggled. And so the fact that Pedro's come off the bench and scored a 7-pointer is, well, a little bit lucky in the sense that he came off and scored. I was actually predicting him to start and to return against United. I did think that United were going to get battered by Brighton. I was more than happy to play Pedro in that fixture. But considering that he did catch me off guard and was benched, I am quite lucky that he has scored a goal in the 26 minutes that he was afforded and to pick up the 2 bonus points. And so I'm thinking that I'm just going to use the money, the points that he has earned me last week, and invest it into potentially the second strongest attacker from one of the strongest attacks in the league, if not the strongest attack in the league, on being Man City, with a player who's sub 7 million and looks to be about as nailed on as can be in that squad. And with the injuries, he looks even more set to continue playing 90 minutes on 90 minutes. Getting Alvarez into my team is also pretty crucial if I want to get ahead of what the game week 8, 9 and 10 wildcard team will probably look like. So bringing Alvarez in has actually edged my team even closer to what this wildcard is likely going to be for most managers who are looking to wildcard to bring Salah in. And so if I only end up spending 4 points across the opening 8, 9, 10 game weeks in terms of hits to save my wildcard, not that I would need to use a wildcard to bring Alvarez in, but to get to a very strong team that will be very reminiscent of what a wildcard will look like, seems like an aggressive play worth taking. And the final cherry on top is I've actually saved that 0.1 million that I didn't need to spend on buying Alvarez at 6.9 million. So I still sit with 0.1 million in the bank. And I've immediately gained 0.1 million in value in Alvarez, as he has gone up in value today, as it looked like he would from the FPL statistics sites. So that's kind of the complete lists of reasons as to why I have actually made an aggressive move here and gone for Alvarez a little bit earlier than I had planned or what I had said in the video earlier this week. But yeah, let's see if he can pay me back immediately this weekend at home to Nottingham Forest. So that's it for today's video. I don't think I'll bother reading out the team because I've kind of gone through it already. It's up on screen. So to keep it as short as possible, if you did enjoy today's video and you got something out of it, hit that like button and consider subscribing. It really does help the channel out. And until next time, I will catch you again shortly. Cheers.